The council meeting is about to begin. Roll call. Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Councilmember Green.
Present.
Councilmember Morrell. Councilmember Moreno.
Present.
Councilmember King. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Jeruso. We have 6 members. We have a quorum.
All right, Madam Clerk, thank you, and good morning to everyone. We're going to start our council meeting with our invocation with Pastor Botan.
May we all stand for a moment of prayer? Gracious God, our Father, how we honor you, how we adore you, how we thank you for this day that you have given us, God. We ask now that your presence would be in this meeting, God. We thank you for our council. We pray that you continue to crown them with wisdom and give them guidance, Father, as they make decisions on behalf of this city. We thank you for our residents who are here this morning. We pray now, God, that this meeting would be done in decency and in order, and at the end of the day, you will get the glory out of all that we do. We ask all these blessings now. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Our pledge will be led by Councilmember Thomas.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The special orders of business. The first order of business is a presentation, Professor S. Carver Davenport and the Dillard University Female Choir Ensemble, recognizing the Dillard University Female Ensemble and Professor S. Carver Davenport for his 48 years of service as the Dillard University Choral Director.
Members of the City Council and members of the public who are with us or watching us today, I am so honored to represent District Council D, but also because of the fact that it includes Dillard University, a historic institution that has provided educational and social building opportunities for youth for so many years. Great administrators, great programs. Well, someone who sometimes flies under the radar but shouldn't is S. Carver Davenport, Professor, Director of the Dillard University Choir. And we have today representatives of Dillard University who will join us at the table. We also have the very talented Dillard University Female Ensemble who will sing a song today, who will grace us with their choral talents today as we celebrate S. Carver Davenport. But let me quickly read the proclamation, and we'll be within the time limits that we have, but I have something that I need to say. Whereas S. Carver Davenport, lyric tenor, conductor, and arranger, has been the director of the celebrated Dillard University Choir for 48 years and is the longest reigning choral director for all 107 HBCU schools and has led the choir in performances for presidents such as Gerald Ford and Barack Obama. And whereas S. Carver Davenport is a member of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, studied at Hampton Institute for a Bachelor of Music Education degree, the University of Michigan for a Master's of Music degree in Voice and Conducting, and Union Institute and University, where he earned a Doctor of Philosophy. And whereas S. Carver Davenport was among the first singers Moses George Hogan chose to organize his first choral ensemble, the New World Ensemble sang in the Moses Hogan Singers and the Moses Hogan Chorale, and was the guest choir director of the chorale in Norway, the Skruk Chorale in Norway. And whereas S. Carver Davenport was appointed in 1986 by the host pastor, Dr. W.E. Housey of the St. John Institutional Missionary Baptist Church, to direct a 1,000-voice choir for the National Baptist Training Union Congress musical, and was appointed by New Orleans Mayor Sidney Bartholomew to direct the 500-voice choir and a 200-piece orchestra for the Republican National Convention. And whereas S. Carver Davenport is an associate professor of music at Dillard, the Ray Charles Endowed Chair Professorship of Music, is the minister of music at the New Tree of Life Baptist Church, a keyboardist at the Saturday Vigil at the Our Lady of the Star of the Sea Catholic Church, and a member of the American Choral Directors Association, the Music Teachers National Association, and the National Association for Music Education. As you can see, what he has done so much is so appreciative, is so appreciated. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the City of New Orleans that the New Orleans City Council recognizes and celebrates Dr. S. Carver Davenport, at my request, signed by all 7 members of the council in the name of and by the authority vested in the council of the City of New Orleans. We are so pleased to have representatives of Dillard here today to celebrate the 48 years of S. Carver Davenport's contributions to Dillard and our community. Mr. Nick Harris, if you'll introduce who's with you at the table and then who's with you in front of you.
Thank you, Councilman Ring. Really appreciate it and happy to be here today. With me, I have our provost at Dillard University, Provost Maylin Kruger, okay, the provost at Dillard University. But before you have the renowned, outstanding, beautiful voice, Dillard University Female Ensemble, who would like to greet you with one selection. Before we start, however, I would like to say that unfortunately Carver Davenport, Dr. Davenport could not be here this morning. He had another appointment. He's became ill, but he'll be better. I talked to him later. I will talk to him later. But we have our president of the Dillard University Concert Choir, Ms. Abby Gonzalez. The reason, councilperson Ring, and to all the members of the city council, is that this coming Sunday at 3 o'clock at Dillard University, we will be celebrating the 48th year S. Carver Davenport as the choral director and the longest tenured choral director of all 105 HBCUs in the country. So we're happy to celebrate this with you. A fantastic event we will have for the city of New Orleans and celebrating a outstanding leader, not only at Dillard, but also throughout the city of New Orleans, where he also plays for several churches and other benefits. So now I'd like to present to you the Dillard University Female Ensemble.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Abby Gonzalez, and I serve as the president of Dillard University's Concert Choir. With me, I have my vice president as well as our beautiful ladies of the ensemble. Again, Dr. Davenport is not feeling well. He is ill, and he sends his best gratitude, and he is extremely honored to be recognized by this distinguished body of lawmakers who are extremely dedicated to the city of New Orleans. We will now perform a selection that you may know called Precious Lord, which was composed by Thomas Andrew Dorsey, who is known as the father of gospel music. He was born in 1899 and passed away in 1993. This gospel hymn was born of a real and personal tragedy. While he was out of town, unfortunately, his wife died in childbirth and his son died a few hours later. Racked with grief and in response, he sat at the piano and wrote Precious Lord. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished body, the ensemble will now perform Precious Lord, composed by the father of gospel music and arranged by Samuel Carver Davenport.
Time Y'all should have prepared too.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that on Sunday, February the 25th at 3 o'clock, the Dillard University complete 40-voice concert choir, along with Dr. Mona Lisa Saloy and renowned vocalist Dr. Valerie Francis and Dr. Julissa Singleton will be at Dillard University and performing. We did not have a Christmas concert, so this will be the concert for the city of New Orleans as we celebrate Carver Davenport, and as the choir began their spring tour, touring throughout Dallas, Texas, and also Louisiana to bring these beautiful voices to you. And want to thank you very much for inviting us here today, Councilman, and all the other city councilmen, and saying hi to you, and we thank you a whole lot for all the support you bring to Dillard University. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick, and we appreciate what Dillard University does in our community. I certainly want to encourage anyone who wants to have an afternoon of tremendous music shared to come out on Sunday at 3 at the Lawless Memorial Chapel at Dillard University. Want to thank the Dillard University Female Ensemble. What a beautiful selection. And to everyone, what you heard today is just the beginning of what you'll hear if you're out there on Sunday. So thank you, Dillard. Thank you, Nick Harris. Dr. S. Carver Davenport, I know you're watching right now, so we want to tell you to get well soon, but also thank you for all that you've done, not only for those 48 years, but what you've done throughout your life to enhance the opportunity for others to do well and to learn in our community and in our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, they're going to take pictures with us.
Council members, we have the second order of business, a presentation, Roy A. Glapion, honoring New Orleans native Ocean Glapion, who moved to Los Angeles, California in 2003 to pursue his comedy career. He quickly became a favorite and regular in all LA's major comedy clubs. Ocean Glapion delivers huge laughs with stories about being a single dad raising his biracial son, life growing up with a strict parent, and quirky life observation. His broad comedy garners fans of all ages and backgrounds, providing an entertaining experience for anyone from ages 18 to 80. Ocean has already shared the stage with the likes of Martin Lawrence, Damon Wayans, Tom Arnold, Tim Rose, Donnell Rawlins, Kevin Hart, Tony Rock, Damon Wayans Jr., Nick Cannon, and Cat Williams. As headliner, Ocean Glapion has sold out the Beau Rivage, the Ontario Improv, the Bree Improv, Denver Improv, Inside Jokes, the Rio Casino, and the Hollywood Improv numerous times. Ocean's TV appearances doing stand-up comedy have been on BET's One Mic Stand, Stars, Stand Up and Deliver, and Comedy. Ocean is also a regular on the hit sports show Mostly Football on Complex. He has appeared in feature films Why Comedians Laugh and Welcome Matt. Ocean Glapion was featured in a national commercial for Old Spice and opened for Kevin Hart and Damon Wayans. Now one of America's premier touring acts, you can find him performing on tour around the country with Blackish and Grownish star Dion Cole, are headlining comedy clubs on his own.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Of course, Ocean was scheduled to be here, but touring and scheduling, and he's reached such a level of stardom and prominence now that I know Roy was going to apologize for him in terms of his schedule, but everyone knows my relationship with the Glapion family, and I even think on the part of my mom's side, I think we've been related to one branch of the Glapions. But another New Orleanian, similar, we just honored Tater Payson, who most folk would not know. He was a national winner of the Bonner hairstyle, and one of the leading hairstylists for many of the stars in this country. Many of us don't know about Ocean, Roy, so we can kind of condense this thing since he couldn't be here, but if you could accept on his behalf.
Yeah, definitely, and thank you, Councilman Thomas. And it's a pretty interesting story, and maybe we don't honor our own enough. And this story is really interesting in the sense where I really just met Ocean. I really did. So graduating from St. Aug, we have these dinners, and we decided we were going to have a dinner at Beau Rivage. And the act at the time was Dion Cole. If you don't know who Dion Cole is, he's the Old Spice guy, and
yeah.
You took my lavender or whatever, right? And so there's an opening act, and all I heard was Ocean. That's all I heard was Ocean. And so the opening act is performing, and I'm like, this guy is funny. Yeah. So there was no
and he looks like your people.
Well, but you don't put the two together. I'm in Mississippi, right? And I'm thinking, Ocean, okay, well, opening act, I'm here to see Dion Cole. But he was really funny. And so there was no, well, he's a Glapion, so maybe I should laugh a little more, right? No, he was just really funny. So at the end of the act, good night, Ocean Glapion, buy some T-shirts, right? I'm like, Inez, did you? You know, so buying some T-shirts, I walk up to him, take my license out of my wallet, and I showed it to him. And he's like, what? Man, you Roy Glapion? Man, we cousins. I said, I know. Who was your daddy? You know how we do it, right? Who's your people? Armand Glapion. I'm like, Armand Glapion was your daddy? Are you kidding me? So when you hear the story, it's true. He was here. He lived here. He left to pursue his career as a comic in California and has done extremely well. So I decided, Councilman decided, why don't we do a proclamation to honor our own, right? Guy's doing extremely well. He's famous in other areas, but we have a tendency to not connect with our people, right? So I thank y'all. I'm sorry he can't be here. He's performing tomorrow, 7 p.m. at the Comedy Store on Fulton Street, I believe. So I'm going to go see him and laugh again. But at the end of the day, it really, for lack of a better phrase, blew my mind that here's this guy who's funny, touring, doing all these things, and he's a Glapion, and he's from New Orleans. So I thank you again, for honoring him in that manner, and I will make sure that he gets the proclamation for sure. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
High school is important, so so what was that high school again?
Purple, you already know.
Where'd you graduate from?
Purple.
Very successful
79.
businessman, too, so
Absolutely.
I can
Till
actually
die.
stop with my remarks there. The council understands, but
Till I die, you
just
know.
tell Ocean that I said hello.
Certainly will.
Go Purple. And I do appreciate your sharing with us his successes, because now I'll pay more attention to Ocean Glapion, and I look forward to being able to go on to YouTube and, finding some of his, performances. But thank you very much. And
Thank you.
from one Purple Night to another, to one who's at the table and to one who's on his national tour, tell him, go Purple.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Morrell.
I appreciate you and Councilman Thomas taking this opportunity to honor someone who is a native son who's doing very well. I think that, to your point, we don't do enough to highlight those national treasures. And when we do highlight them, usually they've blown up so much at that point that it's kind of white noise.
Yeah.
And it's like it makes much more sense that as people are on that rise, as they're on that full upward trajectory, we should help lift them up versus sometimes it seems like we always honor the person who's already peaked at the top of that trajectory. So I certainly look forward to catching this comedy somewhere at some point. But thank you for being here. We'll really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Marino.
Thank you. Hey, good morning. What another great example of how a talented New Orleanian is now showcasing his talents around the country and really, I'm sure, being seen around the world too, which is fantastic. The talent in your family in particular as well is tremendous, and it is certainly recognized in many places, not just here in the city of New Orleans. Just thank you for letting us know about Ocean. And we're so proud to do this proclamation. Thank you, Councilmember Thomas, for bringing this forward. And, maybe at the comedy show tomorrow, you and Councilmember Thomas can present this to him there. That would be pretty cool, Anyway, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Councilmember King.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas, for once again highlighting our local talent that's been recognized nationally. I think this council is doing a great job of doing that. Mr. Glapion, thank you on behalf of your family. Thank you for the continuous contributions the Glapion family has made and continue to make in the city. So thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
First of all, tell Inez I said hello.
I certainly will.
Secondly, I can't wait to hear more about Ocean and especially hear his jokes about having a biracial child, being biracial myself. So this is great, a celebration, as we said, of local talent. We're going to hear from Xavier next, and, keep it up.
Thank you.
Councilmember Giarrusso.
Good morning. I can identify with I'm related to you comment. I knew JP before I was reacquainted with my cousin who he's married to. So I've been there before too. And look, I think we've all said it, but your family is a treasure in the city.
Thanks.
And we appreciate everything that you do to give back. But I say this all the time, like we export our talent all over the place. And sometimes we don't really recognize that as it is happening. So I'm happy you're here as a representative of your family to make sure that we all have that moment to celebrate Ocean. And hope he knocks him dead on Friday.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
all.
Mr. Glapion, we'll come down and present this to you so that you could present this to him on stage at his performance and tell him thank you. We saw his schedule, but we know how touring is and times, and so we'll present this to you now. Thank you.
Thank you.
2, 3.
Roy.
We're now ready for the third order of business, a presentation, recognition of BET, Edmonds Entertainment, and This Way Out. Ashley Irvin Hawkins, Assistant Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Xavier University. Patrice Bell, Vice President of External Relations for Xavier University. Tracy Edmonds, CEO and President of Edmonds Entertainment. Sean Rakin, Executive Producer and owner of This Way Out Media. Mark Seliger, Executive Producer and co-owner of This Way Out. On the cusp of celebrating its first 100 years of service, Xavier University of Louisiana remains America's only historically Black and Catholic university and is ranked among the top HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities in the nation. Recognized as a national leader in STEM and health sciences, Xavier has historically produced more African American students who graduate from medical schools each year than any other university in the United States. Established almost a century ago in 1925 by Catherine Drexel and the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament as a place for African Americans and Native Americans to receive a quality education. Xavier has since expanded its program in nearly every industry, including the arts, sciences, business, education, pharmacy, and political science.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you all for being here today. It was exciting to see Dillard, but I'm even more excited to see Xavier. I want to first thank the producers of BET, Edmonds Entertainment, and This Way Out Media for bringing their latest project to our great city, College Hill Stars Edition. I had the pleasure of meeting some of the stars of this season's College Hill during Mardi Gras, and I know many of us did. And I heard nothing but great things about them, and they were so nice, and talked about their fabulous experience at Xavier. For those who may not be familiar, College Hill Celebrity Edition is a show that aims to amplify awareness around the profound significance of HBCUs and give public figures the opportunity to be part of the joy, community, and academic excellence that stems from these institutions. This year's season couldn't come at a better time, with Xavier University celebrating 100 years of being the nation's sole Catholic HBCU. I now want to turn it over to you all to introduce yourselves and provide some brief remarks.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Harris, and the entire City Council. We are excited to be here today. We really and truly appreciate your support and recognition of our efforts. And on behalf of Xavier University of Louisiana, we want to thank BET Plus, Edmonds Entertainment, and This Way Out Media for selecting Xavier University of Louisiana for College Hill Celebrity Edition. This platform not only amplifies Xavier nationally, it really and truly highlights our small yet mighty HBCU. And, you know, almost after 2 years of negotiation, we're really excited and happy that this project has come to fruition. And as you mentioned, as we embark on almost 100 years of service, we're really excited to continue highlighting our mission of promoting a more just and humane society. So thank you again for the recognition. And of course, Tracy, Mark, and Sean, thank you so much for working with us and highlighting Xavier.
It's been our honor. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, AVP Hawkins. Good morning, Council. Good morning, Councilmember Harris. I'm excited that Xavier's here as well. My name is Patrice Bell. I'm Vice President of External Relations at Xavier University of Louisiana. And on behalf of President Verrett and our entire Board of Trustees, who are on campus meeting right now for our spring meeting, thank you so much to Ms. Edmonds, to Sean, to Mark, for not only bringing the show to Xavier, but to the city of New Orleans. Xavier takes its role in this city very seriously as a member of the community, and most specifically as a giant in the Girdtown community. The big brother, big sister of that community, making certain that as we are doing well for ourselves and branding ourselves as we approach this centennial, look for greater investments in our students, that the next generation of great Xavier students will come from Girdtown, from New Orleans, and from beyond those borders as well. So for me, for the president, for the Board of Trustees, this is much more than just College Hill Celebrity Edition. This is demonstrating the might of our tiny little school that produces more undergrads who go on to get MDs, PhDs, more sitting jurists who have received an education that teaches them to be culturally competent. And I cannot thank BET, Edmonds Production, or the three people next to me right now anymore, because what we have witnessed with them is they have brought celebrities who are serious about the academic process. They have allowed us to stay true to our commitment to excellence, and they have engaged themselves with our students, practicing with our basketball players, singing with our choirs, doing mentorship, and truly engrossing themselves in the learning process. We have watched them, those celebrities, on a true educational journey, but we have also watched these amazing producers, I think it's fair to say, fall in love with our city. So it is our honor to have brought this to our city. And as a New Orleans native, as a NOLA girl through and through, this has been amazing to watch them enjoy Mardi Gras with all of you, to enjoy the culture and the food of the city. We were discussing that this is not the place to come to if you're watching your figure. It's just not. and really know that this will put us on a platform that is not just national, but international. And I believe, I am faithful, as St. Catherine Drexel was faithful about building that little miracle on the Washington Avenue Canal, right? That this will have impact for the next 100 years, not only for Xavier, but for the entire city of New Orleans, and most specifically for our council member in Girdtown, for those residents of Girdtown, and specifically the youth, the next students of Xavier. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for everything you just said. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tracy Edmonds, and I am so excited to be here this morning. On behalf of Edmonds Entertainment, I want to thank you so much, Councilwoman Leslie Harris, and all of your distinguished council members for bestowing us with this beautiful, beautiful honor this morning. And I want to speak from the heart for a minute, because I was talking to the ladies in the lobby. This, for me, as a producer, has been the most exhilarating city that I have ever worked in. I mean, I don't know if it's because my grandmother is from Grand Rapids, I guess an area close to here, but I really felt so at home from the moment that I got out here. And from the moment that I got out here, I have been bragging on your city nonstop. I'm on social media letting everybody know how fabulous this city is. I have been trying to absorb as much of the culture and the food and the music that I can out here. I've been to the parades. I've been to all your fabulous restaurants. I was telling her, charcoal grilled oysters out here at Drago's, and so that's been amazing. The music, what is it, Frenchman Street? Yeah, the Spotted Cat's my new favorite club. But everybody out here just has a vibrancy that has just been incredible. You know, everyone's so friendly, and it's just a great place to be. And so I want to thank you and this city for allowing us to be here. And then now, you know, as far as College Hill goes, I created College Hill about 20 years ago, showing my age. But the show was designed to encourage the Black community to go to college and to get an education. And so for, you know, a lot of Black, you know, students in high school, they never had family members that went to college. And so a lot of times they just figure that academics stops there. But through this show, we wanted to show everything that college has to offer, from the academic experience to the social experience to experiencing, a different city and a different life and growing and evolving. And we were so honored and excited to be able to partner with Xavier University for this season. You guys have just been so amazing. And the faculty there, the professors, they really care about their students. And their care for the students goes way beyond academics. And you're going to see that on the show. And you're going to see how the professors really individualize the academic experience for their students. And so not only does Xavier have a fabulous academic program, but again, your faculty, your professors are just truly one of a kind. So we thank you so much for allowing us to partner with you. It's been absolutely incredible. Let me see if I forgot to say anything. I think I covered everything, but thank you again, and we're just so honored.
That's a hard act to follow.
No.
Everything she said plus this. Good morning, my name is Sean Rankin. I'm one of the presidents of This Way Out Media. I've been partnered with Tracy actually for almost 20 years now.
Yeah. Yep.
We've been working on College Hill since the very beginning, and then when the show was rebooted, obviously it made sense to partner again. We're super excited about this third season of College Hill Celebrity Edition, especially to be partnered with Xavier University. It has been, as our lovely Ashley has said, about a 2-year experience trying to get the contracts negotiated and things like that, but we're so excited that this day is here. We're actually just a few days short of their graduation now, and we're so excited for the journey that the cast has been on. To see these 6 individuals basically take everything and put it aside, their celebrity lives, their busy schedules, and really immerse themselves in the Zula experience has been nothing but rewarding for us. To see how the professors and the students have embraced them in a way that allowed them to really have the traditional student experience has been incredible. And further to what Tracy said about the staff and faculty at the university, we always talk about people saying that they meet students where they are. We've seen time and time again professors, doctors, PhD holders meet students that may not have even finished high school where they are and have these eye-opening moments with them. I'm so excited that we can actually translate that to the viewer. We hope that this program has the same success as our previous 2 seasons have, where it's driven freshman application inquiries up by 200% and 300% of the previous universities. So we're hopeful that brings that to Xavier as well. And we're super excited to be able to showcase the city of New Orleans, the people of New Orleans, and the hospitality that's been offered here. It has been second to none. So thank you so much for allowing us to have this experience.
Thank you, Sean.
I'll round it out. The thanks really isn't for us. The thanks is for the city of New Orleans and Xavier University and the Film Commission. That's really where the thanks should live. We have, I'll make real brief in the television production side of things. I got an email yesterday from our post producer, our executive producer. Frequently when we do this show, you want to know what the B-roll looks like. They now have enough footage that they're going through it. They're looking at what the city looks like, how it feels and how it sounds and what the flavor is. And he said, and his team, and post people can be exceedingly critical. They are meticulous and they can be very rough. What they're experiencing and they're seeing in a 2-dimensional space with moving images shows a soul and a passion in a community and a university that we have not had thus far in this show. And that is a basic fact. These are people who are removed from here. They're not here with us. They only see the images. So they look at it in an editorial sense. As they watch it, they feel this city. They feel this faculty. They feel all of it to themselves. And it's instilled an incredible passion amongst our post team who are very ardently in it in the first place. But at this point in time, it's palpable what they are seeing in footage. And our goal is to make this city look, and this university look, as exceptional as we know it to be. And it is there, and we know we can accomplish that. So we thank you, and we thank Xavier. That's the true core of this whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jerusa.
Thank you. Well, good morning. It's good to see everybody. Ms. Emmons, I want to sign you up right now for a PSA about
I will do that.
All right.
Definitely do that.
I think you're the poster child, and we'll take you across every district so you can figure out all the things you like best.
As long as you feed me.
We will. Look at me. You have no problem with that. So look, we are so excited that you all are here and telling the story that you are telling. And I know you said that Xavier is small but mighty, but I think we're going to focus more on the mighty. Xavier is an institution, as Councilmember Harris says, been here for 100 years. It means so much to our city, so much so that we named a street after Dr. Francis, who has been such an important part in his family and what Xavier has done for this community. I know we were joking about high schools earlier because that's always important to New Orleanians about where you went, but the Xavier alumni base is so strong here and nationally, and then you get to layer a story on top of that. And so while we know here as New Orleanians how important Xavier is, I think we're very thankful for you to get to tell the story so everybody else gets to see that as well. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember King.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Ms. Edmonds, it was a breath of fresh air to hear you really highlight the positive stuff that our city has to offer, not just Mardi Gras, but our university, Xavier University. The Spotted Cat on French and a little small hole in the wall club. It's a breath of fresh air to hear an outsider come in and speak on how great things are going on in the city, because it seems like at times we have an image issue, and our local media sometimes could compound the issues with the negative stories, negative reporting. But it's great to hear that that positivity come from someone on your stature. So I second Councilmember Jeruso. Maybe could you do a PSA?
You know what? I will seriously do whatever you guys want me to, because I literally love this city, and I'm happy to give back to what you guys gave to us with this experience.
Well, I see Mrs. Alexis in the background. We can get that happen, make that happen. But thank you, and to the entire team. Thank you all for investing in the city. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Council President Moreno.
Thank you. Councilmember King, we can just take our cell phone, go right outside, film something real quick, get it on the air immediately. Thank you all so much for being with us today. Of course, to the Xavier team, you know how much the City Council supports Xavier. I have to tell you, I'm so incredibly excited about the new medical school. I mean, I know there's some big announcements coming soon, and I've been talking to Pete November and the folks at Ochsner, and that partnership is strong. To be able to have more Black doctors and bringing them into the pipeline and having them here in New Orleans is so incredibly important, and I'm so thrilled. This is transformative for the city of New Orleans with you all building this medical school. So very exciting. To the producers who are here and highlighting our city, we are so incredibly lucky. Let me put it that way. We are so incredibly lucky to have you all present in our city and highlighting the very best that we have to offer and spreading that throughout the country and really the world as well. Putting it all over social media, that's fantastic, but also really highlighting our tremendous Xavier. And what a tremendous HBCU that is in the city of New Orleans. And like I said, the publicity that you are providing to our city, there's not enough money that we could be able to provide to get that done, and you all are doing it for us. So for that, we are tremendously grateful for what you're doing. Let us know what we can do to help, and Miss Alexis in the back, when you all are ready to shoot your PSA. She is ready. She has her cell phone charged up, ready to start recording now and putting things online. Perfect. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Council Vice President Morrell.
Thank you. I don't have a tremendous amount to add. I do think it's funny that Xavier always uses that small but mighty thing. And it's just, I think that you guys are so tremendously humble in how much Xavier punches above its weight.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the history of that university, you look at the fact that there really wasn't a national movement for blacks in pharmacy until Xavier pushed to have a pharmacy school. And to Council President Moreno's point, that is what you will do for medicine, for African American opportunities in the medical field, because you really don't have that push. Just like Southern with its law school, if you don't push the door open, if you don't kick the door open for opportunity for us, then you're just kind of beholden to wait for opportunities to fall in your lap. To the producers and the team, it's so important for people to have an organic New Orleans experience and highlight what makes New Orleans unique and special. And the opportunity you provided for Xavier and for all of us to really show that organic experience. And I say that because a lot of people get a curated experience. When you see an ad from NOLA and Company, I love the ads, people are like, oh, that's an ad. I mean, that's like you're trying to get me to go to Disney World in Orlando, Florida by showing me Mickey Mouse in front of the castle. when you see people enjoying the New Orleans experience and you see how approachable it is and how you can come here, whether you're a millionaire or whether you're a dude who's a gaffer on a film or whether you're a teacher, you can all come here and enjoy New Orleans because it has something for everyone. And those kind of organic experiences you're presenting are what let people know that. That's what makes this place so special. So thank you for giving Xavier the opportunity. Thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you, and good morning, and it's great to have you here. I know that we said it a couple of times, but Mrs. Edmonds, those comments, and there was a close-up of you. I'm going to just tell you.
Really?
To AVP Hawkins and to VP Bell, that alone is an incredible recruitment tool, right? I mean, you kind of said all the right things from your heart, and so it's very much appreciated. But I'm certainly appreciative of living in the city of New Orleans, and one of the reasons is Xavier University, the tremendous number of students and faculty members who have gone on to do great things in our city, our region, and in our nation. My family's a member of the Gold Rush Nation. My brother, Terrence Green, is a graduate, and certainly we hear about Xavier a lot and his experiences, his very enjoyable experiences. But it is great to have you all here today with us and speaking so candidly about your enjoyment of the city of New Orleans. Thank you for producing right here and at this great university. And what you're doing is going to make it even greater in terms of the recognition, the international recognition. But Xavier University is a tremendous player in the city of New Orleans. We focus a lot on medical. For example, my brother finished in computer science and is a well-respected, very successful computer science involved person in the Dallas, Texas area. He was here in New Orleans until Katrina, and he just had to move because of that. But I'm just so pleased to have Xavier in my family. My father earned his master's degree in education from Xavier, and I was a member of the St. Augustine High School band, but I got my music start at Xavier as a pianist. I took piano lessons at Xavier when it was the Barn and 3 other buildings. And now Xavier is scattered throughout the community, doing great works, investing tremendously in our community, even building new buildings as we speak today. So there seems to be no limit to how high Xavier can go in terms of its positive contribution to our city. Mrs. Edmonds and our producers, Mr. Rankins, Mark Saliga, you all have chosen the right institution, a great institution, and thank you for promoting it, and thank you for promoting the city of New Orleans as you do, and we look forward to continuing to watch and to celebrate as Xavier continues to shine on that level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Councilmember Harris, first of all, thank you for recognizing not only Xavier, but the people at the table in this industry. Ashley Irvin.
Hawkins.
Hawkins, you know which part I know. I'm so proud of you, young lady. Our families come from the same little place across the canal.
Yes.
Your family's probably one of the few that can rival mine in terms of how many family members we have. Thank you for what you do. All of us celebrate you.
Thank you.
Patrice Bell, communications expert. It's been said that she can make a rock talk.
Perhaps.
And whenever she represents an agency or an entity, she does it with her spirit, her intellect, and her knowledge of the value of that agency, and right now it's Xavier, so thank you. Tracy Edmonds, famous name, but you've added so much value and humanity to that name. You made that name grow in terms of creativity and its presence. And for people who don't know this young black woman who's involved in an industry where there aren't too many black women, as someone who's done some work with Rasha and 44 Blue and ITV and Red Arrow, and who's been fortunate enough to help produce and create creative content for a few stores, for a few stories, and a few series. Your role, I think, the National Directors Guild. How many people of color have ever served there?
For which one?
The National Board of Directors for the Producers Guild
Oh,
of America.
there's been about two of us in history.
There's only been about
Yeah.
two. And so within the industry, people may know you for your name and the brand, but they don't know how many times you've been in the room and fought for black women.
Thank you.
And for black folk in this industry. So I celebrate you for that. Ms. Alexis, it's also good to hear, Councilmember Harris, everybody celebrating this industry.
Yeah.
And I think what Tracy Edmonds would say is that when other producers and other people who put together creative content come to our town, let's be as open and celebrating of them, especially when they're people of color. Many of these shows, guys, are not just about highlighting entertainment, but just a few of them that I could name have $30 million and $50 million impacts on the community. And I say that to say that because the powers that be represented some challenges to some other creative contests because I don't think they knew the industry, right? But while we celebrate what you and what Xavier are doing, we need to be as welcoming to the other creators, the other folk who produce. And I think you guys will help set an example so that when other producers and other creators come here, we'll understand that it may not be perfect, but the value of what they bring to our community and economic value, social, spiritual, and creative value cannot be weighed just by a few incidents of what happens on the camera. So, and for the two guys who are with the three great women, y'all picked the right team. We appreciate what you guys are doing with our kids. And as you welcome and endear yourself to New Orleans, Ms. Edmonds, know that throughout this country, people endear themselves to you because of what you've done with your name, with your brand, and fighting for us in this industry. God bless you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to add to what you were saying. For those of us that are in the creative community and have to produce content for television and film, so many times we're restricted to only working in cities and states that offer tax incentives. So God bless you guys for offering tax incentives, because not only are you helping us get productions done at a cost-effective, with a cost-effective method, but also too, you're providing us a work environment where we can really thrive and enjoy the experience. And so I, for one, will be returning to New Orleans to do as much work as I can here, and I will also be spreading the word about what a great place it is to work. And so I just want to thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one question, when is the premiere?
We can't.
We don't know just
This
yet.
year.
Soon. We'll keep you posted though.
Y'all will let us know when the premiere
We
is.
definitely
They
will.
got to do the sizzles
First
first,
episode,
right?
First episode is actually supposed to
Gotta
premiere
do the
after the
sizzles
BET
first.
Awards this year,
Yeah.
so that's what we're supposed to be attached to. So we're talking the middle of June.
Okay.
Will be our first episode, and then everything else will be available on BET Plus, and then linearly on the channel shortly thereafter.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. We have some proclamations. We'll take some photos.
Great.
And then you'll film that ad for us. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Oh, write this down. This was a great orders of business.
Councilmember, can I read the consent agenda? The consent agenda on page 4. We have a communication from Aaron Spears, Chief of Staff and Council Utilities Regulatory Office. This should be marked received. On page 5, we have a communication from Cynthia Davis, Department of Safety and Permits, City of New Orleans, 2756 Gladiola Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date March 7th. We have a communication from Cynthia Davis, Department of Safety and Permits, City of New Orleans, 4623 South Durbany Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date March 7th. On page 6, we have a communication from Michelle D. Allen Hart, General Counsel and Deputy Director of Aviation Legal Affairs, New Orleans Aviation Board, Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport. This should be marked received. We have a communication from Amy B. Trepanier, Director of Personnel, City of New Orleans, Department of Civil Service. This should be marked received. We have a communication from Jennifer Avegno, MD, Director of Health Department, City of New Orleans. This should be marked received. On top of page 7, we have a communication from Ron Losell, Governmental Affairs, Lead Consultant, Zach Smith, Consultant and Design, 1517 Broadway Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date March 7th. We have a communication from Alvin C. Meister III, Law Office of Sher Garner Cahill, Richter Klein and Hilbert, LLC, 2502 Jefferson Avenue. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date March 7th. We have a communication from Stephen Bull Hernandez, Consultant and Construction, 317 Baron Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date March 7th. On top of page 8, we have a communication from Wendy Kerrigan, Atelier Design, 333 St. Joseph Street. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date March 7th. We have a communication from Zach Smith Consultant and Design, 27 Newcomb Boulevard. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date March 7th. We have a report of Anita Curran, Council Research Officer, New Orleans City Council, 2756 Gladiola Street. This should be marked received. We have a report of Anita Curran, Council Research Officer, New Orleans City Council, 4623 South Durbany Street. This should be marked received. We have a report of Cashel McGowan, Deputy Police Monitor, Office of the Independent Police Monitor. This should be marked received. We have a report of the Executive Director of the City Planning Commission. This should be marked received. Suggested hearing date March 7th. On page 10, we have a ordinance calendar number 34,543 by Councilmember Harris, zoning docket 8523. On page 11, ordinance calendar number 34,544, Councilmember Harris, municipal address 135 through 139 Carondelet Street, zoning docket 8823. Ordinance calendar number 34,545 by Councilmember King, municipal addresses 1359 through 1373 St. Bernard Avenue, zoning docket 9323. On page 12, ordinance calendar number 34,546 by Councilmember Moreno and Morrell. Motion line over M2464 by Councilmember Harris by request. The Quality of Life Committee recommended approval. And for the ordinance 34,546 by Council Members Moreno and Morrell, the Economic and Development and Special Project Committee recommended approval. Those are all the matters on the consent agenda.
All right, Michael Burnside, and that'll be followed by Susan Johnson.
I'm getting old and I'm getting lost. My consent agenda doesn't have that last item on it, or either that or I'm crazy. So anyway, came up to speak on two items. Number one is pretty standard. We've been doing this for a while. September is going to roll around in about 6 months, and when it does, I guess I'll get arrested because the wonderful utility pole at Felicity and Magnolia is not being addressed. Nothing's being done. I have an email from somebody somewhere saying that a contract was let out by DBW and that nobody picked it up, and therefore the city has no contractor to deal with conduit that's underneath the sidewalk. So, we're within sight of the Superdome. We're like less than a mile away. You can see it really nicely. And the city cannot act. And the inability of the city to act is reminiscent of a book written by a past mayor, Mitch Landrieu, who talks about not being able to get a crane. And if you don't have a crane, you can't move monuments or statues or anything else around. So relying on capitalism to meet all the needs of a city may not be incredibly wise. So I would suggest as we move forward that Curo get itself a blue-collar division where they hire a couple of guys with a bucket truck who can do stuff. That way we can just assign them stuff that the capitalistic market doesn't want to do. Because otherwise certain things just will literally never get done. So that's sort of taking care of that, for today anyway. In regards to number 16, there's a discussion about a hotel. It's a very nice hotel, of course, but the problem I have with it is it doesn't offer any poor people housing. So Councilman Green was kind enough to discuss with the French Market people, I misspoke, with the French Quarter people about the need to house various people that, again, the capitalistic market doesn't find an ability to house. And if the capitalistic market doesn't find an ability to house them, then the city government needs to step in and figure out a way to get them housed. So as people want money from the city, I would suggest that the city should want affordable housing from developers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Susan Johnson, 2822 LePage Street, Historic New Orleans Neighborhoods, LLC. I'm not paid to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this item on the consent agenda. I know the conditional use for Our Lady of Lourdes school conversion to boutique hotel is a done deal, but I still need to point some things out. There are unremediated problems at the parish complex site, and parish complex site means the church next door, 2400 Napoleon Historic Mission Revivalist Church, and the parochial school, which is going to be developed into boutique hotel. What about a parking plan for 2428 Napoleon, the school to hotel? 21 or 22 on-street parking places were promised. Developer has said a valet lot will be provided as of January 18. They were still looking for it. Who will follow up? This is the most important issue for the neighbors. Number 2, unremediated blight at the church building next door, owned by the developers of the school. They do not own the school yet, but they own the church. And that's, it looms large in the emotional landscape of New Orleanians, okay? Maintenance problems were reported at the church the day before the CPC meeting on November 14th. Conditional use for the school and continue to this day. All right, they're getting their conditional use approved by this body January 18th, but per the CZO section, Article 4.4.3a, purpose of the conditional use must serve a public need in a particular location, okay? Public need in the parish complex is probably the elimination of 20 years of blight post-Katrina for this church.
Ms. Johnson, that's your time. Start wrapping up.
Thank you. Again, constant problems. Number 3, this is a national registered site. Contrary to Mike Sherman's representation, it is eligible for tax credits. And what's more,
Ms.
finally,
Johnson, that's your time.
it's this, the developers have been—
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Slumlords in Carrollton area with dorm development.
All right, Ms. Johnson, that's your time.
Irresponsible stewards of historic properties.
Ms. Johnson, thank you. All right, do I have anything online? Okay,
Yes, we
go
do.
ahead.
We have one online comment regarding this same consent number 16. This is from Lee DuPont. The developer owns the Lord's Church located on the same parcel. The developer admitted financial difficulties at the NPP meeting. The church is now blighted property, no water to building, no power to the building, and the yard unkempt. The developer had significant shortages in the required parking for the event center, even after a large number were grandfathered to the church. They have not come up with the 23 parking spaces required for the event center. What will the neighborhood look like when a hotel with numerous employees and 50-plus guests? This should not be allowed without a realistic parking plan in place. Thank you for your time. That's it for the comment.
All right, thank you. I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Councilmember Green. All in favor, please vote your machines. I've got 5 yeas, no nays. It says he voted.
We're now on top of page 13.
I'll make a quick call.
A legislative group in all matters, a communication from Winston Fiore for RTA application 2014142259 has been deferred to March 7th, as well as the resolution R2471 has been deferred to March 7th. We're now on page 14, a legislative grouping, demolition appeal of Debbie Champagne, transmitting the application documents for a demolition permit requiring City Council review and approval for the following property: 2632 Myrtle Street, 2333763, demolition RSFD. We have motion M2470 by Councilmember Green approving the applicant's request for demolition for property located at 2632 through 34 Myrtle Street.
I'll make comments after the HDLC report. No? Okay. Per code enforcement, the property was adjudicated as unsafe to persons and property, a fire hazard, a hazard to public health, and a public nuisance. I don't take demolitions lightly, but I want to see demolitions done when they're a threat to the community. This demolition application was filed by code enforcement pursuant to City Code Chapter 26. An abatement by the city will be performed at the owner's expense. The HDLC objects to the demolition. It's a contributing rated building built within the period of significance 1909 to 1963 for the Edgewood Park Historic District. In the interest of that community and that property, which is certainly a challenged property, I am asking the council support to move forward with the demolition. So I move as such to approve motion M2470. Been seconded by Councilmember Thomas. Members, vote your machines. We have 6 yeas, no nays. Thank you very much, council members, for your support. This is an important development relative to this community and the removal of blight.
We're now on top of page 15, a legislative grouping, CBD HDLC appeal of Erica Gates Preservation, requesting to appeal the Central Business Historic District Landmark Commission's decision of denial of the application for demolition of an existing contributing rated one-story open-frame warehouse structure to grade for the property located at 411 Andrew Higgins Drive. We have motion M2469 by Councilmember Harris, granting the applicant's request for demolition for property located at 411 Andrew Higgins Boulevard.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This motion overrules the HDLC's decision not to allow the demolition of a one-story open-frame warehouse. Eleanor, can you brief us on the HDLC report?
Yes. Because the current historic structure appears to be competent and durable and could likely be modestly repaired and retained, staff feels that full demolition to grade for the purpose of reducing code enforcement fines would be an extreme and inappropriate action. There are many examples in other historic districts around the world of creative and successful adaptive reuses of similar industrial structures which both serve to preserve the unique historic, architectural, and cultural importance while also enhancing the special character and economic growth of their respective historic contexts. Staff would also like to note that there is general concern that the continued demolition of warehouse structures such as this will inevitably undermine and negatively impact the visual perception of the area and the public's understanding of the unique social, cultural, economic, and architectural history of the warehouse district. At their meeting of January 3rd, 2024, the Commission denied the application to demolish the structure. The staff encourages the City Council to uphold this denial to halt the current trend of demolitions within the district so that the structure can be redeveloped and reused.
Thank you. We have one comment from Erica. Erica?
Hi, thank you. Erica Gates, 1026 North Carrollton Avenue, representative for the property owner. I just had a couple brief comments. Though we understand the HDLC's position on this demolition of the structure, we do not feel it possesses historic significance of its own and was built after 1952 at the very end of the district's period of significance. It is a metal awning accessory structure to the historic brick warehouse on the property and not itself an occupiable building. It is no longer in use and has minimal reuse functions as this neighborhood moves away from industrial use. Thank you, council members, for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Gates. Because this is just an open frame warehouse or awning, as you called it, I'm allowing the demolition. I've moved. I need a second. Seconded by Councilmember King. Six yeas. Motion passes. Thank you.
We're now on top of page 16. Zoning docket 8223 has been deferred to March 7th. Legislative grouping. Zoning docket 8923.
Madam Clerk, you do not need to read all that.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Crowley, you're here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Council Member. This is a request to address the dwellings to dorms phenomenon that has affected the historic residential building stock in the vicinity of Tulane and Loyola campuses, and it, of course, follows on a study in various interim zoning districts. And this amendment to the zoning ordinances regulations would require the City Planning Commission to conduct a design review of new construction in major renovations and expansions of structures. The intent of the design review is to limit the overall scale of structures and to ensure compatibility in design with existing building stock. The staff is generally supportive of the intent of the motion. It does make a few recommendations for modifications. Number one, the Planning Commission recommends that the design review process not require DAC review and that it occur entirely at staff level. That language should be added to include new construction residents as well as additions to existing residences. For additions, the threshold that requires design review should increase from 10% increase in square footage to 20% increase. The design review criteria should focus on massing, articulation, and roof form to ensure compatibility with existing development. And then finally, the height limit should consider the immediately adjacent structures, have it be no more than 3 feet higher than the taller of the two adjacent buildings to create a very tailored location-specific height limit. I will note that the Department of Safety and Permits has expressed concerns to us about the practical ability to do that given the inability to get on site to neighboring properties to measure height. So having said that, the Planning Commission recommends approval with those modifications.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kroll. All right, I have a few comment cards. I think there's also one or two online comments as well. I hope I get this right. This is Annexford from Housing NOLA. If I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry. Keith Hardy, Chris Johnson. Mr. Johnson, our policy is 1 card per person, so that's how we handle things. Zach Smith, and then Mr. Burnside. Go ahead, ma'am. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hello. It's Onyx, but thank you.
Yeah.
Hold on one second. Oh, no.
Looks like an egg.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is there a way for somebody else to come?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah, it's my fault.
Everybody's had phone issues today. All right, Keith Hardy, Chris Johnson, Zach Smith. Mr. Hardy?
Good morning. My name's Keith Hardy. I live at 618 Audubon Street. I'm the president of Maple Area Residents, and I'm here representing that organization. I'm not compensated for that. This issue arises because these developments are extremely lucrative. They rent for as much as $2,200 a month per bedroom. We've got some of these structures that are bringing in $15,000, $20,000 a month. So the developers are very keen to get in and squeeze as many bedrooms as possible into each structure. And that, the more that pressure is on the design, the less attractive the design is, the more obstructive the design is. I sent you some pictures today showing one of these structures that rises way above the buildings above it. It went from 3 bedrooms to 15 bedrooms on a double lot. It blocks the light on the side building. It towers over everything. And so we're here because the developers and their designers, and you're going to hear from them in a few minutes, they build for bedrooms. They don't care about how it looks. They don't care about what it does to the neighbors. They build to get more bedrooms in there. And it's not good for the neighborhood. Where are those people, those 15 students, going to park on that block? Where are the residents going to park? So if an industry doesn't want to be regulated, it can avoid it. It can take proper steps to provide safe products. In this instance, it can take proper steps to provide good design, to provide design that fits in with the neighborhood. The people you're going to hear from today, they don't want to do that. They want to jam in the bedrooms. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Ms. Onyx, are you ready? Yes. All right. Take you up next, and then we'll get to you, Mr. Johnson.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Oh my God. I just said. Sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
It's all right. You can add. We'll go out of order again. It's fine. Yeah, it's okay. All right, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Smith.
Good morning, Council. My name is Christopher Johnson, and as you heard earlier, I'm wearing 2 hats today. First as representative for AIA New Orleans, the advocacy chair, and then second as a resident of the affected neighborhood. Firstly, on behalf of AIA New Orleans, we want to thank you for your continued efforts to provide good quality homes and housing to multiple resident types and needs throughout the city. However, there are a few options that work against this. Pardon me. Within this motion. First of all, the neighborhood is comprised of many homes that are small. We encourage a larger threshold of 20% as recommended by staff to allow for small homes to be able to increase without the same burden that larger homes are largely exempted from. Secondly, the design compatible with character, scale, and spatial relationships. We encourage an exemption for multifamily, small affordable multifamily housing. They, by their very nature, are new but allowed types of homes in this district and many districts through the city. We encourage their exemption. Third, item 4, building height of any new structure. Tall structures flanking a short house confer the right to build tall housing next to it, whereas short houses in this neighborhood do not have that same privilege. We recommend council looking at the baseline zoning for the height restrictions not the developing pattern of the adjacent building. This is summarized from a letter that you have each received, so I'll truncate my comments. My second hat that I'm wearing is as a resident of the neighborhood. We've lived here for 20 years as a resident and longer, decades more before then. However, we see our role as a responsible citizen of the city as a greater threshold. For example, this neighborhood, this characteristic of motion has a restriction that is a blind spot. I want to make council aware that by obligating limited staffing to the administration of this neighborhood's needs will overcompensate or will overstretch them beyond their abilities to plan for the future for the rest of the city.
Please wrap up, Mr. Johnson.
I will wrap it up.
Thank you.
We want to advocate for the entirety of the city's benefit. City planning needs are needed by more than just this residential district's wants. Please consider amendments to allow for activating and enforcing this motion only upon proper staffing levels at city planning. For details, look at the staff report, page 14. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's opposed to making sure CPC has appropriate staff, but I don't think we can stop things dead in their tracks because CPC hasn't hired up. And Mr. Crowley, you can tell Mr. Rivers, I said, if he wants to have a conversation about more staff and unlocking more dollars, we're ready, willing, and able at any budget meeting to let that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. Is the third time going to be the charm, or do we want to go with Mr. Smith? You guys decide. All right, here we go.
Good morning, Council. Zach Smith, 1000 South Norman C. Francis. Overall, agree with staff report. I've said publicly at CPC, I think that there are specific concerns in and around the universities that need specific answers and need specific legislation. I think that overall the design review is probably one of the best tools, where I've always differed on some of those other overlays and adding parking indiscriminately. I think overall this is one of the better tools. I do have a couple tweaks. I know I've shared it with your office, Mr. Giarrusso. Can anybody define the word character that's been added after all the CPC stuff? Is there a definition of the word character? In the studies that we've had as a professional, my decade in here, character's always been used more in a negative way to prevent things from happening, and usually in not so great ways. Especially since this potentially bans camelbacks on some people on some streets and not other people on streets, depending on, do you live next to a two-story house or do you not live next to a two-story house? I think it would be fair to say that the character of New Orleans, especially in these neighborhoods, and the 206 square blocks that this ordinance will affect, to potentially ban camelbacks, I think would be out of character. Kind of follow-up question is, you guys did some great work on early January, a motion that's moving us through city planning. Ms. Harris, this stuff about small multifamily affordable and the ability to potentially have two doubles rather than one fourplex. Architecturally speaking, I don't think that two doubles will meet the character of just about any place in New Orleans. So I think that prima facie, this ordinance will potentially ban those two doubles in 206 square blocks of some of our densest areas. And then the last is kind of to Mr. Thomas, Mr. Green. You guys have stuff later on in the agenda today to ask city planning to look at your areas of town. On November the 9th, when we were here at the budget hearings, we were talking about, man, city planning could really use some extra effort and eyes on our neighborhoods. We're spending, again, more time on 206 square blocks, where we're putting a lot of effort on that. I do appreciate the comment that came up about the budget or Mr. Rivers. I do believe, I was at the CPC meeting that day, they asked for additional monies. I don't believe they were given it. So I would ask that for the quarter budget update, that CPC be given the staff to grow, because regardless of whether this gets approved or not, they still are understaffed. They still need more. So I think there's at least a middle ground there.
Thank you. Mr. Smith. Councilmember Thomas.
Mr. Smith, know that our budget chairman and I have had some behind-the-scenes intentional discussions about that. Not only watching what happens with city planning, watching the applications, watching the land use studies that we would hope happen, that at some point they would vision out, but that conversation about what is needed to meet not only the need now, but moving forward. So those discussions are being had. Our budget chairman is on top of it, and I hopefully I think the city planning administration is working with him to get the proper stuff done. But it has been a point of discussion, and we know there's a need there.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Definitely want to see more of that focus from the staff of city planning going to the other neighborhoods, specifically in D&E, that we know have been marginalized and haven't gotten their fair share of the last 20 years of post-Katrina eyes and investment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Here you go.
Okay, so sorry.
No worries.
Okay. My name is Onyx Bird. I work for Housing NOLA, 4640 South Carrollton Avenue. The Greater New Orleans Housing Alliance and Housing NOLA stands firm against the multiple iterations of overlay districts in this area. We believe that the council should redirect their efforts to address the true issue at hand. The market is demanding the production of more multifamily housings in areas that refuse to foster the environment to do so. Student or not, we should as a city be seizing more opportunities to effectively streamline thoughtful and full development and diversity of housing stock instead of layering frivolous zoning restrictions on top of another. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to argue with that for the 13th time. All right, Mr. Burnside.
Okay, first up, externalization of costs. Quite frankly, Tulane needs to put more of its students on property it owns, and the city needs to figure out a way to make it do that. Because if you're paying $2K a month for a bedroom, you're rich enough to distort your entire society around you. And I'm not so sure the society wants to be distorted. The next thing raised is that something can't be measured because it's on private property is not rational. We measure the height of mountains. Trigonometry exists for precisely the reason that you can measure things not on a person's private property. So if somebody's saying they can't measure the height of a building, somebody's not a professional. In regards to limited staffing, it's been beaten to death, but I'll just add my 2 cents. I do think the Central City Planning Commission could use some more staff effectively and to the benefit of the city. And given that in 2022, as I will talk more, we did not spend $100 million that we did in fact budget, means that our fund balance is over $300 million, of which $167 million is an unassigned fund balance, which means that the one problem that we do not have is money.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. All right, we have 2 online comments, and then I will speak both to the overlay and a little note that is in the CPC report about staffing.
The first comment I have is from Deborah Lombard. She says, please support the university area design overlay. The owner occupants are tired of the rentals with negligent landlords letting their properties is trash spew onto streets, littering our catch basins, noisy college parties, disturbing working people's sleep schedule, parking so ridiculous, blocking the large trucks like trash from being able to get down the narrow streets, and parking in the driveways or driveway zones of other properties. These houses were designed for real working families, not as college dormitories for our dear universities who have outgrown their venerable leafy campuses. Thank you for helping the good, hardworking people of NOLA. Otherwise, we may consider moving to Jefferson Parish, where the universities do not take over our neighborhoods. We greatly appreciate your support. The next comment is from Robert Strain, who says, as a resident of Carrollton and in the university area, I support Councilmember Giarruso's university area design overlay. That's it for the online comments.
All right, so 2 things. Let me take a little bit of a brief journey. In the staff report regarding CPC, it says this: the CPC staff would be remiss if we did not mention the impact that this proposal would have on our capacity to do the work that this charter requires us to do. For the better part of the last 4 years, the CPC has requested an increase in the number of allocated positions. In 2021, we came to an agreement with the administration that a staff of 29 was the minimum necessary to perform all of the functions that the charter and administration required and/or asked of us. For example, standing up the Brownsfield program, completing several important land use studies, starting a master plan revision process. That number was included in the 2021 mid-year budget adjustment as well as the 2022 budget, but we have not been permitted to hire up to that number. So I'm not putting Mr. Kroll on the spot, but city planning has pretty much answered what's happened there. So I'm happy to look into budget if there's more money that's been needed. It didn't make its way to 2024, but CPC speaks with resounding clarity, in my view, there about what the council has done and what's happened. As for this, the design overlay covers only a small portion of the Uptown University area, and it only applies to residentially zoned structures within that area. I appreciate the discussion with neighbors, Louisiana Fair Housing, and developers, and we did change the language around character. I do think it has a pretty common understanding and meaning of what that is, and we did not go with the French Etude Ensemble, so I tried to keep it a little bit simpler. The amendment, though, seeks to clarify that language. The requirement can be appealed as well. Waivers of development standards will be considered by the BZA. The DAC's advice can be appealed to City Planning Commission and Council. I also understand the concerns, some of which were raised today, about either the multifamily or the adjacent buildings. I've pressed pause, I've washed, rinsed, repeated, whatever needs to be done over 6 years. If we need to come back and tweak this again, as we did with the main overlay, I'm certainly willing to have that discussion with everybody and see practically what is happening as a result. So with that, I will move to approve the amendment to M2436. Seconded by Councilmember Green. 7 yeas, no nay. And now I'll move on M2436 as amended. Seconded by President Moreno. 7 yeas, no nays. Thank you all very much.
Madam Clerk, before we move on, I just had an announcement to make. I wanted to take personal privilege. Unfortunately, we learned really sad news this morning that Edgar Chase III passed away yesterday, and his family released a statement that they had provided to the media and to, of course, the public. And I wanted to read that statement and then have a quick moment of silence to keep him in our prayers. The family says, quote, "While we mourn his loss, we celebrate his remarkable life and cherish the life lessons he taught us. He will be remembered for his kindness, wisdom, commitment to our community and to all humanity, and unwavering love for his family. His presence will be greatly missed, but his spirit will forever live in our hearts." So for those who can stand, if you would stand for a quick moment of silence for Edgar Chase III. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
We're now on page 21. A legislative group and zoning docket 9223 has been withdrawn. Motion line over M2460 has been withdrawn.
So ordered.
We're now on the top of page 26, in the middle of the page. We have motion line over M2461 has been withdrawn.
So ordered.
We have zoning docket 724 is being deferred to March 7th. On top of page 27, all matters. Legislative grouping, street name change 423 has been deferred to March the 7th, as well as motion line over M23566 has been deferred to March the 7th. On top of page 28, we have a legislative grouping, unfinished business for reconsideration of zoning docket 9423, Lee's Professional Properties LLC. Requesting a conditional use to permit a hotel over 5,000 square feet in floor area in the HUMU Historic Urban Neighborhood Mixed-Use District located on Square 150, lots B, 23, and 24, proposed lot 23A in the 5th Municipal District, bounded by Test Street, Homer Street, Red Allen Way, and Nunez Street. Municipal addresses 820, 828 Test Street, Recommendation of the City Planning Commission being for approval, subject to 7 provisos. We have motion M2455 by Councilmember King, approving the applicant's conditional use request for property located at 828 Test Street, zoning docket 9423, subject to 7 provisos by the City Planning Commission. Council members, we need to reconsider the vote that was taken on this matter. It was adopted on February the 1st.
You want to make a motion?
I make a motion to adopt.
Councilmember King
reconsider.
makes a motion to reconsider the vote.
Reconsider.
I'll second the motion to reconsider the vote. Seven yeas, no nays.
Council members, motion M2455 is being withdrawn.
So ordered.
We have motion M2472 by
Madam Clerk, we had a comment on that item. Miss Cheryl Valerie, is that correct? Cheryl Valerie.
Good morning. It's been a while since I've been here. How you doing, Mr. Thomas? How you doing, Councilman? I'm here because I am homeless. I am 70 years of age, and I shouldn't be sitting at the Salvation Army. I shouldn't be at the Osmond Inn. We come out early in the morning, in the cold. I am all clogged up. I can't do this anymore. I'm from Holly Grove. I want to get back to my community where someone knows me. If something happened to me, according to the physician, I just drop dead. I have a heart attack. I'm stressing. I need out of the Salvation. I need to get to my community. There's a lot of houses in New Orleans. There's a lot of houses in Holly Grove. I need to be there, not all the way by the eyes out there on the lakefront. That's too far for me to come. I won't even be going to Carrollton Holly Grove. I haven't been there in weeks, months. I'm a senior. I am tired. I need your help. I need it now. I need it now. I have to walk back down to the shelter. It's cold out there. I'm anemic. I can't take the cold. I can take the heat. I can take the fire, but I can't take this. It's up to you guys. It's up to you guys to do the right thing. I want to be back in my community. I want to be there in case something happens to me. I have a son, the only one left besides my daughter in Chalmette. I'm not going back to Chalmette. I don't live in Chalmette. I live in New Orleans. I was born and raised in New Orleans, 70 years. And my birthday gift I got was COVID-19, March the 11th. That's my birthday. So you will remember me for a very long time. So I thank you. I have to go back to the mission.
Thank you, Ms. Valerie.
Okay. So we have motion M2472 by Councilmember King, approving the applicant's conditional use request on zoning docket 9423, subject to 6 provisos contained in the commission staff report.
All right, make a motion to adopt. Second by Councilmember Harris. 7 yeas, no nays, the motion is adopted.
Council members, we're now going to go to page 37. We have ordinance calendar number 34,550 by Councilmember King by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the City of New Orleans to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of New Orleans and Audubon Commission for the continued design and construction of Governor Nichols Esplanade Wharf, including a redevelopment of wharfs into parks and recreational facilities, creating a continuous riverfront park extending from Crescent Park to Spanish Plaza, and which will include landscaping, lawns, play areas, shade pavilions, indoor and outdoor cultural pavilions, and flexible gathering spaces. And where the specific of those improvements are more fully set forth in a cooperative endeavor agreement as Exhibit A and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have representatives from Alderman here. Actually, they come down in case there's some questions from the dais and/or the public. So the first comment card is Mr. Nathan Chapman.
Good morning. My name is Nathan Chapman. I'm president of the Vieux-Carré Property Owners, Residents, and Associates, which we call VC-PORA for short. I live at 715 Ursuline. I want to tell you, I feel like a young man today. My very first issue volunteering for VC-PORA was about this very spot, the foot of Esplanade, at which time Audubon was hoping to do their insectarium there. We spent 5 years on that issue, and ultimately the community decided we were not going to go forward. So here we are 30 years later, and I think this time we can get it done. So we have some good news. We're, at least based on what we've seen in the public meeting so far, I think it's what we've been waiting for. It's more focused on the river, not as intense on the neighborhood, so we support all that. I'm here to ask one thing so that after waiting this long, spending this much money, that we get it right. Our organization would like to be involved in the sound planning. There's going to be some live entertainment there, and I think if we do it right, we can, all coexist, happily and peacefully. And so I'm asking that we be involved in the actual planning, not just told what somebody else decides. We have a lot of expertise in sales management, and so if we can work together on that one aspect, we're really excited about seeing this project go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Mr. Burnside.
So historically speaking, I read a lot of paper about this situation, and I went to a couple of meetings. I realize Ron is retired, but his legacy lives on. One of the pieces of paper that I read puts this city council on the hook to pay for anything that is structurally non-standard below the water line. So if there's anything below the water line that is not structurally up to code or up to safety standards or the Coast Guard or up to whomever, it's this city council that's going to pay, just like this city council paid for a jail, whether it liked it or not. So you guys may not be aware that how much money you may end up having to pay for this, because nobody's gone under the water line to take a look. Nobody's gone under there to take any kind of pictures or anything else. Nobody knows what's under the water line. And nobody's looked, even though I've asked, and nobody will look until somebody puts a bunch of nice expensive tourists on top of some pilings. So you go back to the Avondale shipping yard, which was sold to an out-of-state group, who ended up having to spend tens, if not outright hundreds of millions more dollars fixing problems underneath the water line at Avondale Park, Avondale Industrial Shipyard. So I would suggest somebody go look.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. Any online comments? Any comments from the dais? At this time, make a motion to adopt. Second by Councilman Moreno.
Yeah, once again, it's got to be a conspiracy, guys. Once again, and my feet haven't grown. It's still 13. But once again, my people. So whoever the conspirators are, please let my.
I asked them to
please let it stay on. I thought
asked
it was
them to
green
do it at 11, but I mean now it's 12 and they're doing it right now.
Yeah, so
they're an hour late.
I'm a yay.
They just showed up. Just popped up 6 yays, no nays. Thank you.
Yeah, let's find who they are because they cut me off again.
Thank you. Council member, we're going to go back to the regular order on page 29.
29.
Is Council member Morrell? Do you want to skip that one?
Morrell, let me get him. It looks deferred to me, though.
Oh, it is.
Okay, just making sure.
Ordinance calendar number 34,198 is being deferred to March 21st. Ordinance calendar number 34,277 is deferred to March 7th. On page 30, all matters, the legislative grouping, ordinance calendar number 34,385 has been deferred to March 7th. Motion line over M23-426 has been deferred to March 7. On top of page 31, motion line over M23-427 has been deferred to March 7. On page 32, ordinance calendar number 34,497 has been deferred to March 7. Ordinance calendar number 34,530 by Council Members Moreno and Morrell. An ordinance to amend the enabling legislation for the New Orleans Tourist and Cultural Fund, ordinance number 14,118 MCS as amended by ordinance number 28,341 MCS, to impose a local participation goal for events funded by the corporation and otherwise to provide with respect thereto, and there is an amendment by Councilmember Moreno. On pages 2 through 3, delete lines 18 through 14 in their entirety and insert in lieu thereof. B, any funding awarded by the corporation in excess of $150,000 shall be approved by City Council motion to ensure the funded event or initiative includes adequate local participation by Orleans Parish businesses and vendors. The corporation shall transmit its request for approval of funding to the Clerk of Council. In its approval request, the corporation shall certify that at least 30% of the budget for the funded event is earmarked for goods and services provided by vendors located in Orleans Parish, or, if less, the corporation shall provide a statement detailing why the corporation supports awarding funding with less local participation and a description of efforts made to use local vendors. Number 2, on page 3, line 15, delete the word the and insert the following in lieu thereof. For all events to receive funding from corporation in excess of $150,000, the. Number 3, on page 3, line 17, delete year and shall and insert the following in lieu thereof, year, comma, A. Number 4, on page 3, line 18, after the word period, insert a comma. Number 5, on page 3, line 18, delete shall state the reason for A and insert the following in lieu thereof. If local participation metrics are not met, the reason for the. Number 6, on page 3, after line 19, before the closed quotation mark, insert the following new paragraph. D, the corporation shall include, as part of its annual program submittal in conjunction with the city's operating budget, a report listing all recipients of corporation funds during the prior reporting period. That is the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Sorry you had to read all that. They are lengthy, but really they're just clarifying amendments. We had, in the amendments, just to explain, we had linked it to a code section for local hire, and instead we thought it made more sense just to kind of just write it out and put it in the actual ordinance instead of trying to just put a code number in and referencing back to that. So that's that piece. But overall, this ordinance is the local participation goal when it comes to major events coming into the city that are receiving incentive dollars from the city of New Orleans in excess of $150,000. We have been working on this for many months, had a very robust hearing on this matter during an economic development meeting, committee meeting, right before Mardi Gras. And so I think that it's in good shape. And what's exciting is that we are now seeing major events also talk about this as well. We're seeing the Super Bowl really like lean into this as well. And during their news conference yesterday, I know Councilmember Green was there, Councilmember Harris was there as well, really leaning in on ensuring that there are, a very diverse group of businesses, local businesses, that are directly participating in these main events. So first, I'll move adoption on the amendment. Seconded by Councilmember King. We have 5 yeas, no nays. And then if I don't have any public comment, Anita, online? Okay, good, perfect. And then I'll make a motion to adopt as amended, seconded by Councilmember Green. 5 yeas, no nays. Thank you.
We're now on to page 33, all matters. Ordinance calendar number 34,534 has been deferred to March 7th. Ordinance calendar number 34,535 has been deferred to March 7th. On top of page 34, all matters. Ordinance calendar number 34,537 has been deferred to March 7th and referred to the Budget Committee. Ordinance calendar number 34,538 has been deferred to March 7th and referred to the Budget Committee. On top of page 35, we have ordinance calendar number 34,541 by Councilmember Thomas by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into an existing multi-year cooperative endeavor agreement with Gulf Coast Gun Busters to dispose of confiscated and/or seized weapons from the New Orleans Police Department's Central Evidence and Property Section for an additional one-year term as more fully set forth as Exhibit 1 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
No fiscal implications, and while they work on my system here, move adoption.
It's been moved by Councilmember Thomas. Seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. Six yeas, no nays.
At the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 34,542 has been withdrawn.
Order.
On top of page 36, we have ordinance calendar number 34,547 by Council Members Jeruso and Moreno. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate unassigned funds balance to the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development for the Youth Force NOLA Summer Internship Program and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Burnside?
So we as a people need to start thinking about this unassigned fund balance. The unassigned fund balance seems to come from two separate places, one of which is we end up drawing into ourselves more revenue than we originally believed, but there's a different way that the unfunded, I misspoke already, the unassigned fund balance is created, and that's not spending money that's been budgeted. So according to the City of New Orleans Annual Comprehensive Financial Report of December 31st, 2022, we budgeted from the general fund only $733,598,000. We only expended, according to the same document, $632,668,000. So this body in 2021 budgeted $737 million, and this city only spent $632 of what was budgeted. Why does this matter? Because when you go to all the trouble to get something in the budget, doesn't mean it's going to happen. So a year ago or 2 years ago, I convinced my council person to put 10 grand or something in the Parkways budget for a little tiny parklet. Maybe 1701 Simon Boulevard might grow into a real park someday with maybe even the Simon Boulevard statue. But in the process, you know, 10,000 this year, 10,000 next year, you get yourself a neighborhood engagement grant for $7,500 and get the neighborhood out there to put in a bioswale. And eventually there's a little tiny center for the community called a park. No money was spent. It was budgeted, was not spent. There are no bullards. And so I've not pushed for another 10 grand this year, because why go to the trouble of budgeting a bunch of crap if you're not going to spend it? And sometimes the money's big. I went to a lot of trouble to try to get a tire shredder way back in the day of Councilman Banks. And the tire shredder was budgeted into the budget at $3 million and was never bought. We don't shred tires.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. Thank you. I agree with you that and I think Councilmember Thomas has said this before too, there's a sweet spot between having cash on hand and then having too much. And I think that's one of the questions we're going to look at both the quarterly budget meetings and then after the audit or CAFR is released to see exactly where we are. Council members, this isn't going to budget because this should have been in the budget and was just an oversight. I thank Councilmember Moreno for bringing it to my attention. If everybody else in the dais would like to add their name to it, I'm happy to do that too. I see everybody saying yes, so everybody's here right now. And obviously we have the expenditure and the related companion ordinance, so we'll just vote on both.
And real quick, Councilmember Druso, thanks for your work on this. I mean, this is a really impactful program that provides internships and was successful last summer in doing so. But I also wanted to flag that it looks like we're going to have to work on the youth summer jobs and the number of those. For some reason, the number of jobs was reduced. As you all remember, we added additional slots so that we could have 1,000 jobs, and for some reason, that number has been reduced now, I've just learned, to 300 jobs. So we're going to have to bump that up again this year to the 1,000 job slot. I mean, we're always talking about wanting to put in place, different programs to help the kids of the city and to work on different crime prevention measures, ensuring that people can receive employment, particularly our youth, to have opportunities for internships and employment. I mean, that is so key during the summer. So I just wanted to flag that.
No, it's great. And I think related to that, either in March or April at the Budget Committee, what we're also going to do is invite all the relevant agencies to come to see what they're doing, A, to make sure the pools are operational, that there's no issues with their contracts, B, what's happening with the lifeguards and how that's working, and then I want to report from every agency that pays kids, whether that's NORD or Youth and Families or Workforce Development, and I want to know that those kids are getting checks cut every single week, so that way we don't have the repeat of what happened.
Yeah, and that there's authorization to cut the paper checks,
Correct.
right?
Exactly.
Far in advance. All right, thank you, Council Chair.
Thank you. All right. Move for approval on ordinance 34547. Seconded by President Moreno. 5 yeas, no nays.
We have at the bottom of the page, ordinance calendar number 34,548 by Council Members DeRusso and Moreno. This is the companion to 34,547. Would y'all like to have y'all names added to this also? Okay. All right.
Yes. So Thomas, Green, Moreno, King, Harris. Mr. Mahdi, you wanted to speak on this one?
Wait,
yes, sir.
I haven't read it into the record.
Oh, I apologize. All right. Let the clerk speak first and get it read into the record. You can stand there, sir.
An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate funds to the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development to provide for use of fund balance to support Youth Force NOLA and their summer internship program, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. Mr. Mahdi. Good morning.
Okay, it's George Mahdi, Neighborhood Unity and Merge. About these programs, they're good. As you can see, we're coming to a critical juncture in the lives and the history of black people in Louisiana. The challenges are great. We have seen Jeff Landry's vision of white Louisiana. More miseducation, more diseducation, the lowering of the criminal age, and the boosting of the school to prison pipeline. We need to develop our own visions of what we need to take care of our kids and our people, because this is a critical area that he's talking about. We're talking about going back into the dark ages. We're talking about bringing back white supremacy, Jim Crow, and with these tactics that they're talking about. So we have to address these issues. We have to put our feet to the fire on this thing. You can't stop racism, gentrification, and other police. You can't stop that. But we can save education. We can save the workforce. We can do these things because we have, we have to do them. This is something that we have to do. This is incumbent on us to take care of our kids and, fulfill the needs of the underclass, the underserved, the people that are at risk in this community that are suffering because of all these tactics, all these things, the right-wing conservatives and racists are putting on us. This is something that we have to do. We have to stop playing politics with each other and get to the matter of working to solve these issues because it's a matter of survival. Who's going to do it? We have to do it. And, by having these programs, and getting the grassroots people involved, we can't bring in people, immigrants in, and putting them in the position and replacing the grassroots classes. That's crazy. That's why they got all this.
Thank you, Mr. Mahdi.
That's why we have all this crime and all this other stuff, because you're not taking care of that.
We're literally investing in root cause right now by making sure that we have more jobs by doing this. That's exactly what this does. So I'll move for approval. Second by Councilmember Green. 7 yeas, no nays. Thank you.
We're now on top of page 37, ordinance calendar number 34,549 by Councilmember Thomas by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor to enter into a second amendment to an existing cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of New Orleans and the Children's Bureau of New Orleans relative to providing mental health services to the juvenile justice system through the city's Office of Youth and Families by extending the current CEA by 5 additional months and adding $100,000 to the maximum amount of compensation, thereby increasing the maximum amount of compensation from $171,728 to a maximum amount not to exceed $271,728, as more fully detailed in the Second Amendment to the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement as Exhibit A and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Second agreement dealing with the Children's Bureau. Before we move approval, we have a speaker, Mr. George Mahdi. Okay, Mr. Mahdi is good. This is providing mental health services, something that we should have been doing, and hopefully we will continue to do so. With that, I move approval.
Councilman Thomas, I'd like to ask that my name be added. Maybe other council members want to do the same.
Absolutely.
With such an issue.
Add everybody's name, man. Moved by me, second by Councilmember Green, then? Who seconded it? Or second by Councilmember Moreno? 6 yeas, no nays. There's one thing I'd like to take a point of personal privilege to ask a question about process. So, what I'm noticing now is that council members are being given cards for issues, and I got a long-standing memory and history of the city council. Is this our process now? If it's your issue, you do your card, or is it has historically been where the chairs will do the cards and the readings? I just kind of want to know for moving forward.
Yeah, the way we've been doing it is if you're the lead author, so if your name comes first, you get the cards, unless it's the consent agenda, and then whoever's presiding over the meeting, whether it's one of the at-large members or somebody else in their absence, then they do the cards for that.
Okay, so thank you. The ordinance is approved, guys. So who do I give this to? Right at the
We're
end.
now on top of page 38. We have ordinance calendar number 34,551 by council members Moreno, Morrell, Jeruso, Harris, King, and Green and Thomas by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into an amendment number 1 to a previously executed cooperative endeavor agreement between the city of New Orleans and the University Medical Center Management Corporation relative to funding for the Trauma Recovery Center to provide treatment, case management, comprehensive resources, and support for victims of trauma and their families, to modify the provisions thereof and extend the term thereof for an additional 3 years as more fully set forth in Amendment Number 1 as Exhibit 1, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This is to expand the services for the trauma center that we have, and it also extends a contract for an additional 3 years. I appreciate all council members adding themselves as co-authors. I'll make a motion to adopt. Seconded by Councilmember Giarrusso. Seven yeas, no nays.
At the bottom of the page, we have ordinance calendar number 34,552 by Councilmember Thomas by request. An ordinance to authorize the mayor of the city of New Orleans to enter into amendment number 2 to a previously executed cooperative endeavor agreement between the city of New Orleans and Healing Minds NOLA relative to the public purpose of supporting the New Orleans Assisted Outpatient Treatment Program's ability to coordinate physicians to conduct mental health evaluations for prospective AOT participants in compliance with the Louisiana Revised Statute 2866 ETSEQ, and to compensate physicians for same by operating the AOT programs through the Orleans Civil District Court and working to connect people in need of mental health treatment, to appropriate resources through case management and court supervision, to modify the provisions thereof and extend the term thereof for 1 additional year as more fully set forth in Amendment Number 2 as Exhibit A, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
The Health Department is going to provide the administrative support, and the compensation is increased by $100,000. I think assisted outpatient treatment is needed. And just on another little side note, we focus a lot here on mental health and trauma, and given the pressure that the city is under, especially given in many cases the assault and the overreaching by the state, we'll probably need to focus on mental health and trauma a whole lot more, but hopefully it'll settle down at some point. So I move adoption. Seconded by Councilmember Green. Vote your machine. 6 yeas, no nays. The new ordinance is adopted.
We're now on top of page 39. We have ordinance calendar number 34,553 by Council Members King, Moreno, Morrell, and Thomas. An ordinance to prohibit the establishment or operation of any convenience center as defined in the comprehensive zoning ordinance on any property owned or controlled by the city on the west bank of Orleans Parish, to prohibit the city from entering into any lease, cooperative endeavor agreement, professional or non-professional services agreement, or other contract providing for the operation or development of any convenience center on behalf of the city on any privately or publicly owned property on the west bank of Orleans Parish, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a call for Mr. Burnside.
Not living on the West Bank, my interest in this is only sort of tangential, but I'll point out the obvious. Once upon a time, we as a city had garbage collection twice a week. We now as a city have garbage collection once a week. Once upon a time, we as a city charged more money to collect trash than we spent. So our service fees were a revenue-generating opportunity for the city. We now, of course, spend more money than we charge, which means whatever we're paying is actually a net loss to the city. In the midst of this discussion of changing our garbage behavior, with or without our consent, collection centers were going to theoretically, at one moment in time, be established in every council district. And they were going to do various things, including accept waste tires. Given the prevalence of waste tires in my neighborhood, I would suggest that the study or the development or the consideration of convenience centers in each district would be beneficial to the long-term restoration of garbage collection to our community, as would a slightly larger sanitation department could step in with a few trucks and do a little bit of the work for itself, rather than, once again, always relying on our good friends in the for-profit industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burnside. Madam Clerk, this ordinance is a sign of good faith to our neighbors in Jefferson Parish and Gretna, who has agreed to foot the entire bill to build a transfer station in Gretna bordering Algiers. As a matter of fact, they're going to use some undeveloped, unused Algiers land to make that convenience center a possibility. Once again, this is a step in good faith, showing that we are serious about our partnership with our neighboring city of Gretna. Make a motion to adopt. Second by Councilmember Harris. 5 yeas, no nays. Motion is adopted. Thank you. 6 yeas. 6 yeas, no nays.
At the bottom of the page, motion line over M22-516 has been deferred to March 7th. At the top of page 40, we have motion line over M2465 by Councilmember King by request, adding the President of the Council as a signatory to the contract excuse me, between the City of New Orleans and the Louisiana Workforce Commission and authorizing the President of the Council to sign the contract between the City of New Orleans and the Louisiana Workforce Commission as Exhibit A. We need to suspend Rule 57.
All right. Yes, Madam. Suspend the rules. Make a motion to suspend the rules. Second by Councilmember Harris. 5 yeas, 6 yeas. Councilman Thomas' machine isn't working. Well, everyone is 6. Okay, we got it. 6 yeas. The rules have been suspended.
So now you can adopt it, Councilmember.
All right, so I make a motion to adopt. Second by Councilmember Harris. 5 yeas, 6 yeas, no nays. Motion's adopted. Thank you.
At the bottom of the page, we have motion M2467 has been deferred to March 7th and referred to the Criminal Justice Committee. On top of page 41, we have motion M2468 by Councilmember where's Councilmember Moreno? Oh, by Councilmember Moreno, ratifying, confirming, and approving the Council President's selection of Council members Joseph Jeruso, Leslie Harris, and John Paul J.P. Morrell as members of the Carnival Legislative Advisory Committee, effective upon approval by this City Council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll make a motion to adopt. Seconded by Council Vice President Morrell. All in favor? 7 yeas, no nays.
At the bottom of the page, we have Resolution R2473 by Council members Moreno, Morrell, Harris, King, Green, and Thomas. A resolution and order providing limited approval, guidance, and additional procedural deadlines with respect to the proposed systems resiliency and storm hardening expenditure, docket UD 2103.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This is the beginning of the City Council approving resilience and storm hardening improvements for the Entergy New Orleans system in the City of New Orleans. The projects that we are approving at this time are the ones that are linked to federal grant dollars. I do have a public comment. Michael?
Madam President, may I be added to?
Sure, absolutely.
So we have everybody. Thank you.
If you can add everyone, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
So storm hardening is an interesting thing, and focusing on Entergy is an interesting thing because we seem to have also our good partner AT&T. So what happens is, of course, a pole is normally owned by Entergy, and it usually has power lines at the very top of it, and then down the pole it has the communication wires. And when the pole rots, the pole owner, Entergy, comes, plants a new pole, puts the power lines over to the new pole, takes a chainsaw, cuts the old pole in half, and leaves. Because they don't own any of the communication wires. And not being the owner of the communication wires, they don't touch the communication wires. And then, of course, the communication wires just stay there forever because there's no incentive for AT&T economically to come and move its wire over to this new pole. So what happens is you have a corner of Felicity and MLK where there are 4 poles within, say, let's be generous, 15 feet of each other. More really accurately, about 10 feet of each other. 4 poles. You got the new pole from Entergy, the old pole from Entergy, then you have the new pole from AT&T because they have their own pole, and then you have the old pole from AT&T, all of them there where the handicap ramp is. So this is going to become more normal as time goes forward because we can look at the historical relevance of the payphone kiosks. If we look throughout our city, we find payphone kiosks littering everywhere because it's not in the economic interest of a for-profit entity to clean up after itself. So it doesn't. And it expects the city to clean up after them. But the city doesn't seem to have the rules, regulations, and laws necessary to clean up after our good corporate partners, AT&T and Entergy. We're not allowed to touch their poles. We're not allowed to touch their wires. We can't do this. We can't do that. And we can't do the other thing while we're on the subject. So it would be good to develop Curo as a little more robust entity that took cleaning up the city, i.e. cleaning up after some of our corporate partners, a little more seriously and spent a little money and made our place a little nicer and prettier. Because some of our payphone kiosks need to be removed and some of our old AT&T poles need to be removed.
Mr. Burnside.
And some of our old Entergy poles
Thank you.
need to be removed.
Thank you. Anita, you got?
Yeah, we have 2 online comments. The first one is from Zay Dalous, who says, Entergy is a billion-dollar corporation that has the responsibility to provide reliable power to the city of New Orleans as per our contract with them. We should not have to pay for the necessary upgrading of their equipment because we are already paying for it in our bill. The amount of increase they plan to charge every customer is unreasonably high. They do not make any effort to purchase power at low cost and simply pass on every single dime of their operating costs to us. So they are making pure profit and want to continue to have us pay for it. Why does the council believe this is the way forward? I think renegotiating this would be the way to protect and serve the people of the city. And the second comment is from Jesse George, representing the Alliance for Affordable Energy as a paid representative. Jesse's comment is, the Alliance is pleased to see the council adopt our suggestion to require more detailed reporting requirements for Entergy New Orleans. However, we would urge the council to further amend this resolution to include limiting language in paragraph 6 to the effect that, quote, the council affirms that prudently incurred costs up to $55 million, which are not covered by the DOE for projects that are approved herein, can be included in the EFRP revenue requirements if they are known and measurable costs that are supportable and expected to be incurred in the prospective 12 months following the EFRP evaluation period, end quote. This would cap ratepayer liability at the matching amount of the federal grant that Entergy has received for these projects and mitigate bill impacts for those struggling to afford their Entergy bills. We look forward to continued participation in this docket and to exploring all options to increase reliability and resilience for New Orleans ratepayers, including increased investments in energy efficiency and local renewable energy, and strengthening the council's reliability standards for Entergy New Orleans.
All right, thank you, Anita. With that, I'll make a motion to adopt. Seconded by Councilmember Green. Do it again. Seconded by Councilmember Green. There we go. 7 yeas, no nays.
Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Sure.
On this matter? I want to make it clear to the public that this involves an expenditure of monies that have been basically secured already by Entergy, that there is not going to be an immediate rate increase. I mean, I'm just anticipating what I might be asked at a meeting because I've already been asked about it. The bottom line is that this council is moving forward. Entergy has applied for federal funding and has secured it, and we're moving forward to make sure that some of the work gets started right now. But this is not the long-term look that we have to give at our overall resiliency. But the bottom line is that I just didn't want people to look for an increase on their bill or to call about it, because it's not going to happen according to this.
Yeah, with these particular projects, it's projected there'll be a 20-cent increase.
Okay.
So, but you're right. I think what was publicized by the company, you know, the big, huge scope of projects, that's not what was approved. It's just this limited the list of projects that's tied to the federal dollars, and we'll continue to look at the additional projects in a very robust consideration approval process that we're developing at this time as we move the rest of the resiliency projects.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're now on top of page 42. Motion M2474 by Council Members Thomas and Green, directing the City Planning Commission in conjunction with the City Attorney to conduct a study and make recommendations within 120 days of this motion regarding the overrepresentation of and the implementation of distance requirements for the following retail goods establishment use types: beauty supply stores, nail salons, tire shops, and convenience and/or discount stores, and to make recommendations regarding potential zoning changes that will require conditional use application and approval for the aforementioned retail goods establishment use types.
We know that the free market usually is supposed to determine your capital success or whether your business can last. But when we were talking about especially disparaged communities, or communities that need to be planned or replanned, when we talk about commercial activities, we're seeing a proliferation of certain kinds of businesses that in many cases, when that happens, it takes up the potential space and opportunity for other wants and needs. So hopefully, Councilmember Green, this is an opportunity for them to take a look at that, how it fits, and as city planning begins to move forward, we'll see more rhythm and coordination developing when we determine or allow or permit certain businesses within certain communities.
Councilman Thomas, I want to echo what you said and just add that our constituents have asked for us to take a look at this, and that's why we're doing so. I do want to recognize, as Councilman Thomas has said, we understand the existence of the free market, but actually we understand the responsibilities that we have as council members to make sure that our neighborhoods thrive and that they're attractive to people to want to move there and to invest. And as we look at this, especially some of these areas, especially tire shops, for example, we know what kind of problems that we're having. This may be a way to address some of those concerns by giving an overall look at those areas of the industry that we have not looked at before. So I look forward to seeing the results of the City Planning Commission study.
Well, I've moved, you second, and Mr. Burnside. Mr. Burnside has a card on this issue.
So the issue Mr. Burnside has, of course, is that we are directing the City Planning Commission, and we don't keep track of what we direct the City Planning Commission to do, and we certainly don't ask the City Planning Commission how many hours of time does it take you approximately to do this, which we are directing you. So it's very easy to direct the City Planning Commission, just like it's extremely easy to just waive the fees for NORD, because we don't know how much the fees are and we don't know what the fees are used for, and we don't know how many hours it's going to take the City Planning Commission to do what we direct them to do. So back to the City of New Orleans Annual Comprehensive Financial Report of December 31st, 2022, we had a total revenue of $1.4 billion and we had total expenditures of $1.1 billion. That's not general fund, that's everything. So we had $300 million more in revenue than we had in expenditures in 2022. 300 million. Of that, 167 million was unassigned fund balance. It was completely unrestricted money. If you want the City Planning Commission to be a robust institution that does all this work that you send to them, I would suggest, whether they want it or not, that you force them to take on another 10 staff members. And while we're on the subject, Curo needs to get a blue-collar division, and you guys should each get one more staff person to do constituent services.
Thank you, Mr. Burnside. Moved by me, seconded by Councilmember Green. Oh, it was earlier. Do we need to move again? No, we don't. 7 yeas, no nays, and the motion is adopted.
Council members, we need to suspend the rules to go to ordinances on first reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
So
Councilmember Green, he's got that motion down, and it's been seconded by the Vice President. Vote your machines, members, please, so we can go to first read. 5 yeas, no nays.
Okay.
Ordinance on first readings. Ordinance calendar number 34,554 by council members Thomas, King, Harris, Green, and Jeruso. An ordinance to ordain and establish section 2-932, 106-69, and 106-179 of the Code of the City of New Orleans to provide for the waiver of all or a portion of certain fees imposed for the use of certain public property in connection with events that serve a valid public purpose, to impose criteria for the waivers of fees and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,555 by Councilmember Harris. An ordinance to amend and reordain Article 12, Section 12.2.b.3 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Ordinance number 4264, MCS as amended by Ordinance number 26,413, MCS, and subsequent amendments to allow drive-through facilities to operate in conjunction with fast food restaurants in addition to pharmacies and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 8623. Ordinance calendar 34,556 by Councilmember Harris. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 26,762, MCS zoning docket number 09415 to permit a fast food restaurant with drive-through facilities in the HUMU Historic Urban Neighborhood Misuse District in the HUC Historic Urban Corridor Use Restriction Overlay District on Square 303, Line 19-A in the second municipal district bounded by Canal Street, North Tonti, North Miro, and Iberville Street. Municipal address is 2321 through 2323 Canal Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 8723. Ordinance calendar number 34,557 by Councilmember King. An ordinance to amend and reordain Article 21 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, Ordinance number 4264, MCS as amended by Ordinance number 26413, MCS, and subsequent amendments to consider regulations for hours of operation and density for parklets that are on blocks that are not zoned commercial or mixed use for corner to corner, to consider amending the district column associated with the permitted temporary use for parklets in table 21-3 and section 21.8.c to amend section 21.8.c.16 and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Zoning docket 9023. Ordinance calendar number 34,558 by Councilmember Harris. An ordinance to affect the zoning change from an HURD1 Historic Urban 2-Family Residential District to a C1 General Commercial District on Square F, Vendome Place, Port, Lot H in the 6th Municipal District bounded by South Norman C. Francis Parkway, Grape Street, Martin Luther King Boulevard, and Vendome Place. Municipal address 1601 to 1603 South Norman C. Francis Parkway, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Zoning docket 9123. Ordinance calendar number 34,559 by Councilmember King. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a hotel over 5,000 square feet and floor area in an HUMU Historic Urban Neighborhood Misuse District on Square 150, lots A and B and 1 or 1 and 2. Proposed lot A-1 in the 5th Municipal District bounded by Red Allen Way, Test Street, Homer Street, and Nunez Street. Municipal addresses 401 through 405 Red Allen Way, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Zoning docket 9523. Ordinance calendar number 34,560 by Councilmember Harris. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a neighborhood commercial establishment in the RD1 Historic Urban Two-Family Residential District on Square 709, Lot 17 in the First Municipal District, bounded by South Telemaka Street, Hanell Street, Cleveland Avenue, and South Genesis Street, 130 South Telemaka Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 124. Ordinance calendar number 34,561 by Councilmember King. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a small child care center in an HU RD2 Historic Urban Two-Family Residential District on Square 32, lots 11 through 14, in the 5th Municipal District, bounded by Oliver Street, Alex Street, Pelican Avenue, and Villette Street, 342 Oliver Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 324. Ordinance calendar number 34,562 by Councilmember Jeruso. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a neighborhood commercial establishment in the HU RD1 Historic Urban Two-Family Residential District on Square 77, Lot 15-8 in the 7th Municipal District, bounded by St. Charles Avenue, Cherokee Street, Hampton Street, Lower Line Street, municipal address 7457 St. Charles Avenue, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 424. Ordinance calendar number 34,563 by Councilmember King. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a fast food restaurant with drive-through facilities in the C3 Heavy Commercial District in the SC Suburban Corridor Use Restriction Overlay District on Lot 2-A-1 on Square ES1. Section C, Elmwood Subdivision in the 5th Municipal District, bounded by Berman Highway, Berman Avenue, Binder Boulevard, in the Donna Canal, municipal address 4001, Berman Highway, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 524. Ordinance calendar number 34,564 by Councilmember Jeruso. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a neighborhood commercial establishment in the HURD2 Historic Urban Two-Family Residential District on Square 129, Lot 12 in the 7th Municipal District, bounded by Oak Street, Adams Street, Hillary Street, and Zimple Street, municipal address 7634 Oak Street, and 1125 Adams Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 624. Ordinance calendar number 34,565 by Councilmember Harris. An ordinance to effect a zoning change from an HURD2 Historic Urban Two-Family Residential District to an HUMU Historic Urban Neighborhood Misuse District on Square 195, Lot P, or Lots 5 and 6 in the 1st Municipal District, bounded by Traperscore Street, Utrapa Street, Britannia Street, and St. Charles Avenue, municipal address 1518 Traperscore Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 824. Ordinance calendar number 34,566 by Councilmember King. An ordinance to establish a conditional use to permit a hotel over 5,000 square feet in floor area in the HUMU Historic Urban Neighborhood Misuse District, lot on Square 150, lots B 23 and 24, proposed lot 23-A in the 5th Municipal District, bounded by Tesh Street, Homer Street, Red Allen Way, and Nunez Street, municipal address 820 through 828 Tesh Street, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Zoning docket 9423. Ordinance calendar 34,567 by Councilmember King. An ordinance to temporarily waive certain fees, permit fees, and requirements within or around McDonald Playground located at 1550 Tesh Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, in conjunction with the West Fest Annual Parade event on Sunday, April 21st, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., to specify the duration and boundaries of said waivers and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,568 by Councilmember King by request. An ordinance to amend and reordain section 146-592, 146-595, and 146-599 of the City Code to allow for more than one parklet per block face, to allow for both a parklet and a sidewalk cafe at the same location, to provide a temporary waiver of the initial parklet right-of-way usage fee, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,569 by Councilmember King. An ordinance to extend the effectiveness of ordinance number 29365 MCS, which established the Lower Algiers Rural Protection Interim Zoning District to ensure that proposed uses and designs are compatible with the preserve the character and integrity of LGIS within specified boundaries for a period of 180 days and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,570 by council members Harris, Moreno, King, Green, and Thomas, and ordinance calling an election for November 5th, 2024, at which shall be submitted to the electors of the city of New Orleans a proposed to amend Article 4 of the Homeroom Charter to establish with therein a housing trust fund exclusively for affordable housing purposes, to require annual budget appropriation to such fund and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,570 by Councilmember Harris by request, an ordinance to authorize the revocation by the city of certain public rights of ways located adjacent to the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, and to authorize the deposition by the city of New Orleans of certain land, including the FOCA public rights of way and improvement thereon located adjacent to the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, which property is defined as the city exchange land, and the act of revocation of the city dedication and the act of exchange attached hereto as Exhibit A, in exchange for immovable property owned by the state of Louisiana designated as Parcel A in Square 340, Parcel C in the Square 333, in a portion of Liberty Street that runs between such squares in the First Municipal District of the City of New Orleans, which property is defined as the state exchange land and in the act of exchange and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,572 by Councilmember Harris by request, an ordinance to authorize the mayor of the City of New Orleans to enter into Amendment Number 1 to a previously executed cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of New Orleans and the Downtown Development Unlimited, Inc. relative to supporting local needs in the area of beautification, recreation, education, and human charitable service, to modify the provisions thereof and extend the term thereof for an additional 1 year as more fully set forth in Amendment Number 1 attached hereto as Exhibit A and made part hereof and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,573 by Councilmember Harris by request, an ordinance to authorize the mayor of the City of New Orleans to enter into Amendment Number 2 to a previously executed cooperative endeavor agreement between the City of New Orleans and Total Community Action, Inc. relative to supporting needs, local needs, in the areas of education and human charitable service, to modify provisions thereof and extend the term thereof for an additional 1 year as more fully set forth in Amendment Number 1 form attached here to Exhibit A and made part hereof and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,574 by Councilmember King and Harris by request, an ordinance to adopt and ordain Article 23 of Chapter 30 of the Code of the City of New Orleans regarding the permitting of fume projects, to establish permits and fees for certain applications related to fuming and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,595 by Council Members Moreno, Morel, Jeruso, Harris, King, Green, and Thomas, and ordinance calling for an election of November 5th at the electors of the City of New Orleans shall be asked to approve an amendment to Article Number 2, Section 2-202 of the Homeroom Charter, adding workers' rights to the municipal bill of the rights and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,575 by Council Members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 MCS as amended entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the City of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate funds to the Chief Administrative Office to support Canal Street LGIS ferry operations in 2024 and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,576 by Council Members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS as amended entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the City of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate funds to the Chief Administrative Office to support Canal Street LGIS ferry operations in 2024 and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,577 by Council Members Jeruso, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 MCS as entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the City of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate additional capital outlay funds awarded to the State of Louisiana Facility Planning and Control Board, to the Chief Administrative Office for Sewage and Water Board Power Plant, project number 50, ML3-1802, and otherwise to provide respects thereto.
There's no substantive change. Thank you, ma'am.
Ordinance calendar number 34,571 by council members Harris and Moreno by request, an ordinance to authorize the revocation by the city of the certain public rights of way located adjacent to the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, and authorized to the deposition by the city of New Orleans in certain land, including the FSA public rights of way and improvement thereon located adjacent to the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, which the property is defined as city exchange land, and the act of revocation of street dedication and exchange of land attached hereto is Exhibit A, in exchange for immovable property owned by the state of Louisiana designated as Parcel A in Square 340, Parcel C in Square 333, in the portion of Liberty Street that runs between such squares in the First Municipal District of the City of New Orleans, which property is defined as state exchange land, and the act of exchange and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,578 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736, MCS as amended in title, an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate additional capital outlay funds awarded to the state of Louisiana Facility Planning and Control Board, the Chief of Administrative Office for Sewage and Water Board Power Plant FP&C project number 50 ML3-1802, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,579 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to transfer funds from the Department of Safety and Permits to the Department of Code Enforcement for the Centralized Adjudication Bureau, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,580 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 MCS as amended, entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate grant funds to the Health Department of Emergency Medical Services to purchase computer, virtual reality headsets required for VR, virtual reality training, and 6 pre-hospital ultrasound machines, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,581 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS as amended in title, an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate grant funds to the Health Department for Emergency Medical Service to purchase computer, virtual reality headsets required for VR training, and 6 pre-hospital ultrasound machines, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,582 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 MCS as amended in title, an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate grant funds to the Department of Health for Emergency Medical Service to hire and train New Orleans Emergency Medical Staff Project Coordinator, 3 outreach coordinators with Odyssey House to purchase 350 Narcan kits, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,583 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS as amended in title, an ordinance to provide an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate grant funds to the Department of Health for Emergency Medical Services to hire and train an NOM-EMS project coordinator, train 3 outreach coordinators with Odyssey House, and to purchase 350 Narcan kits, and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,584 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 MCS as amended in title. An ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate grant funds to the health department for emergency medical service to purchase rescue equipment and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,585 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS is amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate grant funds to the health department for emergency medical service to purchase rescue equipment and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar 34,586 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 MCS as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate State Act 397 funds to the Office of the Mayor for the Office of Youth and Families, Pathways and Parent Leadership Training Institution Programs and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,587 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate State Act 397 funds to the Office of the Mayor for the City of Youth and Family, Pathways and Parent Leadership Training and Institute Programs and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,588 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 MCS as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate funds to the Office of the Mayor for advancing city initiatives to support growth in the blue and green infrastructure sector through workforce and economic development and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,589 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request an ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate funds to the Office of the Mayor for advancing city initiatives to support growth in the blue and green infrastructure sector through workforce, economic development, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,590 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 MCS as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate funds to the chief administrative office and to the police department for supplemental police patrol program and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,591 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 MCS as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate funds to the chief administrative office, to the police department for the supplemental police patrol program and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,593 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,735 as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate unspent funds for the purchase of vehicles in the fiscal year 2023 to the chief administrative office and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,594 by council members Jerusalem, Moreno, Green, and Thomas by request. An ordinance to amend ordinance number 29,736 as amended entitled an ordinance providing an operating budget of expenditures for the city of New Orleans for the year 2024 to appropriate unspent funds for the purchase of vehicles in the fiscal year 2023 to the chief administrative office and otherwise to provide respects thereto. Ordinance calendar number 34,596 by Councilmember Harris by request. An ordinance authorizing the acquisition of a portion of Square RP 6X Lot 6A, 6B in the First Municipal District bounded by Annunciation Street, Thalia Street, the Pontchartrain Expressway, Chapatula Street, Melford Mean Street, municipal address 28726 Melford Mean Street, here and after referenced as portion of Square or P6X by the City of New Orleans from the Ernest and Moriel New Orleans Exhibition Hall. Exemption Hall Authority authorizing the dedication of portion of Square or P6X as public right-of-way for the relocate. Ordinance calendar number 34,596 by Councilmember Harris by request. An ordinance authorizing the acquisition of a portion of Square or P6X Lot 6A, 6B in the First Municipal District bounded by the Annunciation Street, Dahlia Street, the Pontchartrain Expressway, Tropicana Street, and Melpomene Street. Municipal address 2876 Melpomene Street, herein referenced as portion of RP6X by the City of New Orleans from the Ernest and Moriel New Orleans Exemption Hall Authority, authorizing the dedication of portion of Square or P6X as a public right-of-way for the relocation of a portion of Melpomene Street right-of-way located in the First Municipal District between Square or P6X or P56 bounded by Annunciation and Tropicana Street, hereinafter referenced as the Melpomene Street portion, revoking the street dedication of the Melpomene Street portion, authorizing transfer of the Melpomene Street portion from the City of New Orleans to the Ernest and Moriel New Orleans Exemption Hall Authority in exchange for the portion of Square or P6X and otherwise to provide respects thereto. That concludes ordinance on first reading.
All right, Eugene. Seconded by Council Vice President. All in favor? 5 yeas, no nays, 6 yeas. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good one.